Welcome to the deep dive. So today, we're diving into Amanda's scarf. And wow, this scene you shared with us, listener, it really feels like there's more to this exchange than meets the eye. Maybe we can untangle this whole thing thread by thread.
It's definitely intriguing. What we have here is more than just a simple exchange. This passage, it uses a seemingly ordinary object, a scarf, to explore themes of communication, misinterpretation, and even cultural differences. Subtly, of course, but there are layers of meaning here.
Right off the bat, we get this sense of two worlds kind of trying to find common ground. Like gifting a scarf carries way more weight in Amanda's world than in yours.
And not to mention this whole elaborate description we get of you sneaking over to Amanda's house.
Yeah, it's like you practically give us a map and a detailed itinerary.
Exactly. Almost as if you're justifying your actions to yourself.
Yeah.
Like there's this deep-seated fear of judgment, maybe.
It's fascinating that you pick that up. So you finally get to Amanda's, you work up the courage, and then you make this comment about the snow.
Harmless, right.
Seemingly harmless, but then the whole atmosphere changes.
It's like my comment about the snow, like I'm trying to bridge this gap, but instead it's like this chasm opens up between us.
And this is where the scarf, which seems so simple at first, it's like it becomes this catalyst, this trigger for all these deeper emotions. It highlights the cultural difference in how significant gift giving is. You see it one way, but for Amanda, well, it's clearly different.
It feels like she's either really angry or embarrassed, but it's like the text just doesn't tell us which one it is. Is she misinterpreting what you're saying? Is she projecting? The text really keeps us guessing. And what makes it even more interesting is what happens next.
Instead of just, hashing it out. I mean, you even talk about the physical space. You leave room by the window, but she just stays seated.
It's like a missed connection. It's as though they're
Mhm.
so physically close, so emotionally distant. Like, what would have happened if they had just looked at the snow together?
Right. So much left unsaid. It's like we're bracing for this total relationship meltdown, right? But then the whole thing takes this turn, like all of a sudden there's not much dialogue and we're focused on the scarf, like the texture. You even mentioned you notice her right. It's like I don't even know how to explain it, but it feels like a totally different story now.
Absolutely. It's like we've shifted from spoken language to something else. The scarf goes from this source of tension to this point of connection, a tactile connection.
And you're paying attention to her tell, which says a lot.
It does. It's like you're learning to read between the lines, learning to decipher her unspoken cues. It speaks volumes about the kind of intimacy that's developing between you two.
So then there's this whole wish exchange. And you just know, you just get what she's thinking without her having to say it. It's really interesting.
Right. This isn't just a parlor trick or something. This tell, it shows that there's a deeper understanding developing between you. You're learning to read her, her desires, her vulnerabilities even. And it just adds this whole other layer to your dynamic.
And then, of course, there's the almost kiss. And that comment she makes after about almost kissing and telling. I mean, come on, what's going on here?
Okay, so there's definitely some flirtation going on.
Right.
But who's in control? Is she? Are you? It's like this power dynamic is shifting, and the narrative doesn't really give us a clear answer.
They're both testing each other. It's really something. And then just when we're like really starting to understand the dynamic between these two, the scarf comes back into play, right? But this time it's Amanda who wants it, wants to hold on to it, even says something about wanting it back someday. It's pretty interesting.
The scarf, think
Yes.
about it. She gives it,
Mm-hmm.
then wants it back.
Mm-hmm.
Almost like it represents more than just an object. It's like this symbol of connection,
Mm.
maybe even a hope for some kind of future encounter.
Yeah, yeah. And this is where we see the language barrier really start to break down. I mean, you even use the word breakup, and instead of backing away from it, Amanda throws out this word chinook, like she's meeting you halfway in a way.
There's this real sense that they're starting to understand each other a little better. Despite all the fumbling, the awkward silences, you could really feel a connection.
And then that's it. The excerpt just ends. Did she leave? Did the scarf ever make it back to her? What happens next?
I know. Such a powerful way to end, though, isn't it? It
Yeah.
really makes you think. This passage, it's so short, but it just gets at so much.
Mm.
Communication, cultural differences. It reminds us that sometimes the most meaningful connections, they aren't these big dramatic things, but these small moments, shared moments, even misunderstandings.
It really does make you think about all the little ways we try to connect with each other, doesn't it? So, listener, we want to hear from you. What really stood out to you about Amanda's scarf? What did it make you think about?
What really resonated with me is that scarf. It's
Oh,
almost like it's imbued with these unspoken emotions, right? It becomes this symbol of their connection. It makes you wonder, what will it take for them to bridge the gap between their worlds?
what a question. And that about wraps up our deep dive into Amanda's scarf. Thanks for joining us, and keep those insightful questions coming. Until next time.